So, onegaishimasu.
お願いします。
Well, good evening, everyone. This is an experiment, so it'll be fun. I'll read number 21, of course, Setsudo. There is no selfish person who fulfills the way of the universe. If you awaken to the principles and way of the universe, you are given a responsibility from the universe to share them throughout the world. Do not say that you don't have the strength to help people. If you have this experience one day, you are already a teacher for that experience. The world is full of people who are lost and are suffering from an unhealthy mind. Let us share this awakening with others with all our hearts. So I think that we've read Shokushu a number of times. I read it again tonight, of course, because we're doing the 5 principles of Setsudo tonight. Setsudo means spreading the word, means teaching the way of the universe. Once in a while, I hear an objection to Setsudo, and that's because we have groups of people in this world that are very engaged in proselytizing. And if you are not a member of their group, generally speaking, you don't appreciate it very much. When they come and knock on your door and ask to talk to you about their version of the truth, it's not very popular. But Toi Sensei was very, and Suzuki Sensei also very strict about never teaching anyone that doesn't ask you. I think this is very important. First of all, it says, if you awaken to the principles and way of the universe. Principles in this case, he's talking about the mind leads body. That's, for Toi Sensei, that's a fundamental principle of the universe. So first of all, everyone learns the first day they come to the dojo, this principle, mind leads body, don't we? Because everybody learns to keep one point. And keep one point means to allow something to happen instead of trying to make it happen. So it sort of shifts us, keeping one point sort of shifts us from our self-agenda to an agenda that is much more open and much more free and much calmer and much more productive. And this is what Toi Sensei is teaching. So this is the principle of mind leads body. And we learn that the first day with whether it's unbendable arm or unraisable body, or just a simple ki test. We learn the first day, don't we? That in order to pass that test, you have to think differently. You can't think about, I will make this happen. You have to relax completely so that the ki of the universe can move through your body, can stabilize your body, can give you the strength and the clarity so that you are unified. We call mind-body unified. Okay, so anybody who is having this experience can easily share that with someone else with a simple test like unbendable arm. And the second part of this is the way of the universe. The way of the universe, everybody, sometimes it takes some years before people realize, oh, the way of the universe isn't some rules in Aikido. The way of following the way is following what happens every moment in the universe. That's the way the universe is going. So when we follow what is happening in our life carefully and don't try to manipulate it, control it, but just follow it, we're following the way of the universe. So these things, this is the way we live, both allowing things to take place and following along with what's happening. So when you go to another place or go visit someone, automatically they experience that with you. You don't have to tell them. If they ask you, what are you doing? What is this Aikido thing? Well, all right, then you can say something. But generally speaking, I'll give you an example. For when I first went to Europe to teach with Shinichi Suzuki Sensei in 1989, I think it was, or 1990. We taught in Sweden, Denmark, and Netherlands. And then I was asked back to teach in the year 2000, 10 years later, and I taught in those same places. And then finally in 2004, headquarters asked me to go, Toei Sensei asked me to go teach in Germany. And turned out to be other countries developed later. But the second place I taught was in Duisburg, Germany. And when I came out to teach, the students were sitting, but there were about 10 people, men in the back, large men, standing up with their arms folded like this and their head kind of tipped and watching me. And this gave me pause. I must admit that a little bit intimidated me, just for a moment. Just until I remembered this Shokushu of Toei Sensei's, where he says, don't be afraid. Don't say to yourself that you don't have the strength, but also the courage. If you have experienced this, you are already a teacher for it. That's what he's saying. You're already exhibiting it. So you just teach from your heart. You just teach what you are. It's not like, gee, will I think of the right thing to teach? Or will I think of something clever to teach? Or how can I impress these men standing with their hands? No. Just, I thought about Toei Sensei, when that man went to around the world, Hawaii, United States, Europe, South America, Asia, all over to teach. He didn't know anybody. He was all by himself. No one accompanied him. He went by himself the first time. And he didn't know anyone. And he had to go out on stage and give a demonstration and introduce the principles and way of the universe to people that had never heard about it before. At least, I didn't know anybody either. They weren't my students. I knew only a couple of them, but they were Aikido students. So I assumed that they had a fundamental understanding. It turned out maybe not so much, but it was anyway. It was a great experience, and so this kind of experience helped me to understand that you don't really have to bring anything special. You never really have to do anything special or say anything special to anyone. You are already, every single one of you are already representing, as long as you aren't taking anything for yourself. As long as you're supportive, then you're already doing it before you even open your mouth. Okay, so I read the Shokushu a little bit. Let's do a little bit of ki breathing, please. I'd like to ask Sayaka Reasoner to read the Shokushu in Japanese, please.
気の節動の5原則。1、天地の大道を信ずる。2、大道を私しない。3、自ら実行する。4、人を見て法を説く。5、共に進む心がけ。
Okay, thank you very much. All right. I'll read the 5 principles of Setsudo in the original translation. Number 1, believe in the way of the universe. The new translation, number 1, follow the way of the universe. Old translation, number 2, share the way of the universe with everyone. New, number 2, do not use the way of the universe for personal benefit. Very different. Number 3, old, you must practice what you teach. Number 3, practice what you teach. Number 4, teach according to the person. Number 4, new, share according to the level of the person. Number 5, old, grow together. Number 5, new, have a mind to progress together. So this time they're quite different. When I say they're quite different, that means that the person that originally translated them was very liberal with the meaning and added his own feeling to things. For instance, follow the way of the universe does not in any way infer that you should believe in the way of the universe. This is not a matter of belief. Following the way of the universe is the way that we live in each moment. We're not trying to, see, if you say you believe in something, then you basically make everything fit that belief structure. But following the way of the universe is being completely open. Whatever happens is what happens. Being open to it and following it along and not trying to change it in any way for your own benefit. So this is follow the way of the universe. And it leads right into the second one. Do not use the way of the universe for personal benefit. You know what this means? Just in the simplest way, when you and I are on the mat together, you're with your partner, it might be at a seminar and you might not know the person, or it might be in your own dojo and you know the person very well. You have to notice if you have any sense of competitiveness, this is using the way of the universe for your own benefit. It means you want to win something. You want to have some reward for yourself. You want them maybe to say, oh, wow, you really do that Shomanuchi Kokinagi very well, right? So, and by the same token, by extending that, of course, as a teacher, we want to be very careful to notice whenever we begin to have a feeling of wanting to impress or needing to impress the students, because when we that means we're looking for a reward, and when we're looking for a reward, it changes the nature of our being. Then this is small mind, hard at work, trying to benefit itself. And how can you represent Tohei Sensei's teaching? How can you represent following the way of the universe if you're following the way of yourself? Very difficult to do. Very difficult. So it's sometimes even more difficult to notice that you're doing that if that is a part of your character from before that has not yet been released into the wild. So what we're doing while we're practicing all of this time, I hope, is noticing, are we following these principles? Or is something sneaking in there that might not be a whole part of the principle? Number 3, practice what you teach. Well, this is, walk the walk, walk the talk. Don't just talk the talk. You want to be practicing what you're teaching, but not just because it's some kind of moral imperative. Of course, that's the right thing to do. But what it really means, if you soon find out, if you're a teacher, that if you are not practicing it and you attempt to teach it, it will feel hollow to you. It won't feel true. It won't feel full, right? And if it feels that way to you, then the students will notice that something is missing. What is missing? The fact that you aren't actually practicing what you're asking them to practice. So that there never comes a time, practice is for life. There never ever comes a time when you know enough to not have to practice, or that you're somehow advanced enough or awake enough or enlightened enough or experienced enough or expert enough that you don't have to practice. Every morning we wake up with beginner's mind. Every morning we begin again. And in each moment, continuing throughout the day, if we're following the way of the universe, that means we're following in each moment with an open beginner's mind. This is a teaching that we're following. So this is what we're all practicing. I don't tell you things that I don't practice. Okay, number 4, share according to the level of the person. So this is a very interesting one. It's very common sense. Of course, when you're teaching a beginner, you teach Kaisho. When you're teaching a very advanced person, you may be teaching Gyosho or Sousho, right? So, and this is when you're involved with form. However, you notice that this Setsudo principle, which says what it says, follow the way of the universe, do not use the way of the universe for personal benefit, practice what you teach, so forth and so on. These principles, in fact, all the principles in the Shokushu are for all of us at every level. You hear them the first night you arrive at the dojo. You are taught these principles from the beginning. So yes, the form has to be Kaisho, Gyosho, Sousho. The form has to develop. We learn the form, then we learn what's behind the form, and then we forget the form. So those are the levels, basically big 3 levels. There's lots of levels in between. But as you're training through your Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, and so forth, of course, you're learning things at a deeper and deeper level. But the principles, you want to be sure you're teaching to the students from the first day. Even the children need to hear the principles. Maybe you can express them in a way. I hear Lynn talking about and watching her teach. She's teaching the principles, but they're in the language that kids can understand. Maybe it's in the form of a game. So yeah, you teach on the level of the student, but don't insult them by not teaching them the truth, not teaching them the whole story, not teaching them the real purpose of what we're doing. Because we're talking about transforming lives. And the sooner you get started, the better. You don't want to wait until later when you get more advanced. Oh, then I'll worry about that. No, that's what you're doing now. That's the only reason to learn Kaisho, Gyosho, Sousho, actually. It's the only reason to learn mind-body unification. Aiki Taiso. Oneness, rhythm, and Taiso. Okay, we have one more, and that is have a mind to progress together. So what is a mind to progress together? Really, it's the same thing as not going for personal benefit. It's not having a mind that's exclusively for your benefit. In other words, I'm in the dojo, I'm with a partner, I'm training. Why? Is it only for me? Because if it's only for me and that person isn't treating me the way I'd like, I'm going to become upset. But if it's for both of us, you polish me, I polish you, we train together like this. If we have that kind of an attitude, then we're always supporting each other. And we're always, again, with an open, loving mind. Okay, so Prakash says that he needs, a few minutes to get you ready and get you into your rooms. Then you'll have 10 minutes, and then I will see you again.
Okay. Hi, Sensei.
Oh,
So I was with Sally and Tracy and Linda Sensei, but I think she was in another room. So we were talking about question number 2, not question number 2, but Setsudo number 2. And it says, the old way says, share the way of the universe with everyone. The new way says, do not use the way of the universe for personal benefit. And we were kind of wondering about the word use and share. Because when you say the word use, it's like separate and something like a tool for like a tool that's not able to be that can be shared, but we're just wondering why you chose those words, share and use. Sorry, Tracy Sensei's like, I'm messing this up.
all right. No, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. So share, there's nothing wrong, of course, with share the way of the universe with everyone. That sounds great. Let's do that, okay? So, however, what he says in Japanese is to not use the way of the universe for any kind of personal benefit. In other words, he doesn't say use the way of the universe. He says don't use the way of the universe. He couldn't say don't share the universe, way of the universe for personal benefit, because that would not work. It's don't use it that way. It's not meant to be used, it's meant to be shared. Okay, so, but we don't have the liberty to use a paragraph for each of these.
Right.
So I have to be sure that I'm getting as close, or Sayaka and I had to be sure that we were getting as close as we could to Tohei Sensei's injunction. And each one of these is an injunction. Usually it's some kind of advice. Just think of it as an advice from your teacher. Like, be careful. Don't, notice when you're with your partner, when you're either teaching a class or when you're just with another person. You notice right there, I said teaching a class or with another person. But even that is a preset in my mind. It's like whether you're with a whole bunch of people or you're with one person, it doesn't matter. Don't let there be any presupposed agenda or assumption in your mind that is designed to benefit you. We receive our benefit from the teaching in as far as we open ourselves to others. We don't receive benefit by squeezing the teacher to get the goods or squeeze partners to get the goods out of them. This is very important when you're to remember these things when we're discussing. So that's my answer to your question.
Hi, thank you very much, Sensei.
Excellent.
Norta, if you would unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My group would like to know, how do you practice Setsudo in a sales environment where the culture is to actually squeeze the other person for your own benefit? And yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. What an assumption. That is selling something is squeezing them for your own benefit.
Didn't say that, Sensei. The culture often is.
Yeah, I understand. But of course, that's not what sales is. Let me start by saying very soon, in fact, maybe even coming next or one or two times, we're going to do the 5 principles of sales. So when we get to that, we can be much more thorough, but I will answer your question now. And Toi Sensei actually talked about sales often because he felt that in some sense, when you're sharing Aikido principles with others, you should be doing a good job of selling them. But if you use that word selling, at least in the English language, as you say, the cultural assumption is that you're there to get something out of them, that it's a kind of a mutual benefit thing. You're going to get some money, and they're going to get some goods. So Toi Sensei always said that you should look at sales as a win-win situation. That everything you're doing is supporting the other person to help them understand how, in fact, this can benefit them. And if you see that it cannot benefit them, you stop trying to sell it to them. If you have a product that is worthwhile, that's not a problem. But if you have a product that's not very worthwhile, that is a serious problem. So we have a product that is good for everybody. So here in Aikido. So when we're with another person, goes back to the second, do not use the way of the universe for personal benefit. When you're with another person and you're practicing together, it's a win-win situation. Everybody benefits. I would say the most important thing in sales is not to go into the meeting with the idea that you are going to win something from them, that you are going to take advantage of them in some way, that you are going to mislead them in any way, but instead that you're going in there to provide them with something that they have always needed that they just didn't know about yet. Okay? Okay, thank you. All right.
Toby Vogel Sensei, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Well, Sensei, good evening, everyone. In our case, we had a little shortage of time. So we didn't come to one question. I can talk about what we discussed, and what I think it came down to is to the competitiveness, either in teaching, so the benefit, right, using the way to benefit for personal benefit. And this sometimes comes up either when you teach, right? You want to impress the people with the teaching, or when you train with someone else, you want to tell them how this goes, or maybe even do right to your teacher, and trying to do your best and show that the other person how to move or what to do. And even when you are being corrected, so when the teacher corrects you, you still kind of you have to look at yourself and see that you're not, your own ego doesn't come up, or what that does to you when somebody corrects you. This is a kind of I think, if I'm not right, please help me, guys, in the group. This is what we kind of talked about. So, and there was not one question that we ended up with. We tried, but we couldn't find one question, because most of it was already answered in your introduction about
Okay, thank you very much, Toby. Who was in your group, please?
Alaria was there, Linda, Prakash Sensei was there, Priya, and Andre.
Oh, you had 5 people. Oh, okay. So no wonder you didn't have time to find a question. That's a lot of people in a room. So there isn't really a question here, but I can hear underneath all of this, like someone saying, well, what do I do with all my competitiveness? Or probably what people are thinking is, what do I do with all those other guys in competitiveness? Let's ask Sensei to tell them to straighten up. You know, and this is often, no, that's kind of joking, but I'm often told by students, or requested, if I could please help to get someone else's ego out of the trough, you know. And in fact, the person that's telling me is always a big part of the problem. So it's always ourselves that are the problem. When we see something, let me put it this way. What I have learned, just from my own experience, is when I see something in other people, like that bothers me about them, that means that not only is it in me, but that I'm hiding from it. Okay? So that's because that's how I learn. And that's why I always talk about the mirror universe, because that's how I feel like we're taught, because that's how I've been taught. Not that's what I've been told, but that's how the universe shows me every single time I've ever felt that the other guy needed correcting. It's always been me. And I'm so pleased to say this, actually, because as we all know, we are all the ones that, each one of us is the ones that need the support, that need the work. And let me tell you, that's all that's happening in every moment. The universe has you in its arms, and it's holding you like this, and it is feeding you like a baby every moment. All you have to do is eat. All you have to do is just notice and be grateful and be open to it. So I think I can respect that it's hard to come up with a question sometimes. But you know, it is always here. It is always here. Okay, so please, next time, each person, please tell me who's in your group first. Thank you.
Okay. Jack Friend, would you unmute yourself?
Hello, Sensei.
Hello, Jack.
Can you hear me? Oh, hello. Okay, my group was Crystal, Jan, and Kaomi.
Oh,
We discussed the shokushu. We first started talking about the shokushu, and the question we decided on was how to feel, or maybe how to recognize when we're experiencing universal mind.
what's your question is, how do I do that?
Yeah, I that was what we were, we were talking about the first line of the shokushu.
Okay.
Selfish people have never understood the way of the universe. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, no, good. Okay. So as I understand it, the question is, how do I recognize the way of the universe?
Yeah.
There's nothing to be recognized. It's this. I mean, there isn't any secret to it. But particularly, it's just paying attention to what's going on right now. This is the way of the universe. Your life, Jack Friend, is the way of the universe for you. As it unfolds, that is the way unfolding for you. Unless, of course, you're attempting to alter what happens to you, what is given to you by the universe. Then it's not the way of the universe. Well, then it is the way of the universe that's a tricky thing there. It's always the way of the universe, but it's the way of the universe according to Jack, friend, not according to the universe. So we want to get ourselves out of the picture as much as possible. Right? So as much as possible, we learn to let go of our own needs, our own interests, our own requirements, our own assumptions, our own demands, and see what possibilities are open to us, what possibilities are unfolding right before our eyes. We miss 90% of what is available to learn from because we're always sifting through, looking just for that which will help me. And not just me, but what I have in mind right now that I need. Like, the famous, the cliche phrase, if the only tool I have is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. So if the only tool that you have is selfishness, then everything looks like food to you. Everything looks like something you can consume, right? So instead, we let that go. We learn to let that go. And then we're able to follow the way of the universe, what the universe has in mind to reveal to us in each and every moment. Okay?
Thank you, Sensei.
Okay, Vernon Shu, would you unmute yourself?
Yes, we had a lot of different discussions in our group. Our group is Maggie, Gloria, Melly, Sayaka, Lucky, and Shu.
Wow, okay.
And we're probably, the discussion led to sharing to levels, even when a person never showed up at the dojo. Maggie had a story that she smiled and extended key to a person, and that person also responded when she saw him a second time. That changed his thinking of committing suicide just by having a smile to that person. So at a level of different levels, even if never experienced at the dojo, is sometimes that level can be hidden without
Okay.
until after the fact.
Vernon, what is the question you were given to ask me?
How the progress together are in the positions of our levels of training, whether a person is at the beginning level and who leads the training from beginning, and of course the person who had more experience also teaching the other person at a different level.
Thank you, but I just need one sentence.
One sentence.
One question.
So sharing at a level when two person or in a group, do we?
Can I ask you, let me say, can you say, what should I do if?
What should I do if I'm teaching a level of a younger student and that person says it's not the same as what I'm teaching? Or
Oh, okay. Well, that's an interesting question, actually. So I assume you're talking about when you're with a partner, right? Because if you're teaching the class, you're teaching everyone and you're teaching whatever you're teaching. So I understand you to be asking me now, if I'm with a person that's less advanced than I am, and that's an assumption right there, right? So
Yes.
that's already, you're in trouble. When you've already decided that, it's going to be difficult. And then they react to you by saying, well, that's not what the teacher's teaching, or that's not what I think it is. I think it's this. In other words, you're starting to have some difference. Is that accurate?
That's pretty much accurate in that question. Yes. Different levels and trying to accommodate a younger student versus
So
an experienced student.
while I was younger, I think it's just more and less advanced. I think we start training with another person. We first, just like when you're in a conversation with someone, you first ask a question so you can find out about them. So when you're with a partner, the first moves that you're making are questions. You're trying to understand, how is this person moving? How can I help support this person's moves? How are they understanding this? And then you are supposed to perceive then at what level they're at, okay? What level they're on. So then right away, you begin showing them the form according to that level, right? Right away, you start to accommodate whatever you feel they are. And they might surprise you and say, well, yeah, but we could do it this way. This is more advanced. And then you have to say, I don't want to gozaimashita, and train with them that way. But if some kind of difficulty arises, like they tell you that you don't know what you're talking about, or that they don't agree with the way that you're presenting it, or that they think that it's something different. Something has happened, something has fallen down in the way that you presented your case to them. They felt somehow in you a feeling of you trying to tell them what to do. We all don't like to be told what to do. So, or let me put it differently, they might have felt that a little bit of superiority in you. And if you assume, if you told me to begin with that they're younger or that they're less advanced. So if you think that, of course, and then you start teaching them, well, that's the way they're going to feel. Now, maybe if you're a big shot sensei and they're just a white belt, they're not going to say anything because they're scared. They don't want to say anything because, it might be the wrong etiquette. It might be the wrong thing to do. They're not sure. But you can depend upon them being able to perceive that you are higher up than they are. When I was with Toi Sensei, I have to tell you, I didn't get that feeling from him. When he was teaching me, I felt he had my interest in mind. Always felt, even when he was throwing me in ways that were pretty surprising. I still felt he had my interest in mind. I was flattered to be with him. I was grateful to be with him. Maybe some of that is me, but because I wasn't a white belt, of course. By the time he's throwing me, I know well who he is, and he knows who I am, and so. But I think that it all has to do with our interaction with the other person has to be humble in some way. And humble just means not performing for personal benefit. Not looking for any credit, not looking for any respect, not looking for anything special, being something special for the student. That's in all of us, Vernon. You and me both. So we have to always stay aware of that. And be careful and notice what it is that's going on in us. Not just what we say, but why we say it. Okay?
Thank you, Sensei.
All right, is there another group?
That's time, Sensei.
The groups are done?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. We came out just about right.
Sensei, I believe group 2 was not
Oh, you didn't raise your
floor.
hand, group 2. So
Christophe speaking. Good morning, good evening, everybody. The group was 4 persons: Aliona, Johnny, Joel, and myself. Basically, we discussed the following. In the everyday life, for instance, when being with people, we think we may end up teaching the way of the universe, even without thinking that we are teaching. And this would be because of our way of being. An example given was by leading and by taking decision for the group. The question: how do we lead without ending up manipulating?
Okay.
That's my question, Sensei.
So if we are manipulating, we are not leading. So it says here, have a mind to progress together. And Sensei always said, you cannot learn to lead until you learn to follow. You cannot learn Nage, you cannot perform Nage until you learn to perform Uke properly. If we have the idea, the mind to lead others, probably we are going to have to manipulate them. So we're not really leading then. We're leading others when we're listening carefully to them and following the way of the universe through them. The universe, if we listen carefully to the other person, the universe reveals to us what the other person is requiring so that we can support that in them. And in the end, that may be leading, but we never think of it that we're leading. We don't start out to lead, and we're not aware of leading when we're leading. If you're aware of leading, you're not leading. If you think you're leading, you're wrong. You're not leading. That's my experience of this. Okay? And my voice, so I'm going to say, that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you so much, everyone. Domo arigatou gozaimashita.